Welcome to the Big O Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by Believe.
Still the same damn kid from Oklahoma, same old dreams hanging off my shoulders, wishing and waiting on a shooting star for all to see.
And now your host, straight out of Oklahoma, former Buffalo Bill, Jerry Ostrowski.
I'm still the same damn kid from Oklahoma.
Welcome in, Bills Mafia. It is another episode of the Big O Show here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe, and as you know, this is a show about the Buffalo Bills hosted by a former Buffalo Bill, and we've got a lot to get into today. I know there's a lot of stuff going on. OTAAS, Phase 3 is happening. People are there. People aren't there. Lots of stuff going on at One Bills Drive. But as always, one thing that we want you to do for us is hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, review the show, tell a friend, and we rely on that here on the network. We appreciate you for listening, for watching. Remember, if you can't catch us live today, we've always got the instant taped version on YouTube you can go to if you want to watch the video, or you can go to any of our podcasting platforms and listen on your way to work, listen on if you're chilling on at the house or on the back deck having one of your favorite beverages. I don't know how the weather is right now in Buffalo. Heard a little rumor that it's a bit rainy. Well, it's rainy down here in Tulsa as well, so it's not like we're doing much better in the rest of the country. But one of the things that has come out of One Bills Drive over the last couple of days, obviously they start OTAs on Tuesday. Sean McDermott has his introductory press conference, and the first thing that we get right off the bat is, besides the thing that we probably all figured would happen, James Cook is not at OTAs for Phase 3. He has not been to Phase 1 or 2. He's decided to stay away for Phase 3. So we'll obviously probably have an episode on that later in the year. But also, the other news we got, Joey Bosa. He has sustained a calf injury while training at One Bills Drive. That calf injury has taken him out of Phase 3 of OTAs, as well as most of the offseason. Obviously, they'll be able to train around that injury. They'll do a lot of different specialized things with him. It won't hurt him so much in the weight room. The running and agility work, obviously, will have to be limited. One thing the Bills do have that I think is very, very interesting and very something to note as far as an organization goes, that's the fact that they are very progressive in their modalities. When I say modalities are things that you use to treat injury, to treat situations. Back when I was in Buffalo, they had a pool, obviously have hot tub, cold plunge, all of that, but they've got a lot of different things they can do. They have what they call unloading treadmills, which are treadmills that you get into a harness while in the water, so you're able to do movement work and things like that, while the water gives you stability, takes the weight off of the body, and the other thing water does is it kind of acts as a natural brace and things like that. So there are a lot of different modalities that the Buffalo Bills training staff and strength staff will use to help Joey Bosa through this calf injury. But here's the one thing I wanted to say about it before we get much further into the show. While this is not the perfect situation, I am not stressed about it. This is a thing that has happened early enough to where he will have time to heal. The thing about calf injuries, you have to be very, very easy on them because they can lead to some other things. There are many reports that if you get a calf injury on one side, a lot of people get calf injuries on the other side as well. things like that. You can also go ahead and put a lot of unnecessary stress on the Achilles tendon. So there are things that you can it's one of those deals where you have to be careful with it. Joey Bosa being 29 years of age, he'll hit 30 here soon. The amount of plays he has on his body, plus his history, yes, be careful with him. Because as we get into this show today, here on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, we are powered by Believe. I am going to stress that while this is not great, it's going to open up some different opportunities and some different things for the Buffalo Bills that very well could help them in the long run. So Sean McDermott at his press conference said regarding Bosa, it's concerning. McDermott said durability, availability are key ties to our roster. It isn't just the Buffalo Bills, folks. The two things that you have as a player is your durability and your availability. If you're not available, you're really not of any need or any good to a franchise because you're not on the field. McDermott goes on to say, and so we basically look ahead in terms of where we go now, just getting himself the treatment that he needs, and he's working hard at it, and that's all that he can control right now, and we get him back when we get him back, probably at this point, training camp. So we're going to do the best we can, and I know he is well, and take it one day at a time. I kind of read between the lines of that comment, and some of that was, you could almost, it had a little bit of snarkiness to it. And I get how this goes. You're the head coach of a team, next up mentality, all those things. The train doesn't stop. The next guy comes in. I get all of that. But in a way, I also feel like, how is this shocking? How is this surprising that Bosa, who's had vast injury history over the last, over his career, but really over the last 3 to 4 years, pretty devastating stuff, hip injuries, foot sprains, groin tears, all those types of things. I don't understand how this could be necessarily surprising to anyone in the building. And I will say this because I've seen this. And the great John Fina was over in the comments. Appreciate you watching, John. You'll remember this saying from a good friend of ours, the great Glenn Parker, who played offensive tackle and guard with the Buffalo Bills back when John and I played. And by the way, if you got comments, put them over there if they're good. I'm going to put them up on the show today. Always appreciate the comments and interaction from the Mafia and the fan base. But one of the things that Glenn used to always say is the strongest guy never plays. There's some truth to it. And I wouldn't say that it's necessarily the strongest guy never plays, but a exorbitant amount of muscle mass, especially lean, twitchy muscle mass. These types of injuries happen to those guys. I have one of those kids in my house. He's had issues with that since he was in school, in high school. We had guys that we played with that were that way. Joey Bosa and his brother Nick Bosa have had numerous soft tissue injuries. Nick has actually changed the absolute complete way he trains and his nutritional program to help him get over the hump with that. So it's like there is some truth to this. And Bosa being a big twitchy dude with a lot of lean muscle mass, soft tissue injuries don't surprise me. Just a real quick recap. As we know, Bosa, who's 29, he'll be 30 soon. He joined the Bills on a 1-year, $12.6 million contract in March. Honestly, this is an all-in situation like in Texas Hold'em to me from Brandon Beane in the front office. $12.6 million is a lot of money, and I think anybody would agree to that. But in the scheme of starting defensive ends, especially defensive ends with the potential to play to a level he once did, like Bosa, $12.6 million for a 1-year contract is not much. Ralph fires the first salvo, so Jerry never had an injury. I didn't until I broke my leg, which is not soft tissue. Fat guys don't get hurt, Ralph. That's documented. I should make a T-shirt that says that. Fat guys don't get hurt. Probably a bestseller. But if you look at Bosa, the 1-year, $12.6 million contract, Bosa's missed 23 games over his last 3 seasons with the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, if this is a little redundant, I'm sorry, but I think this is pertinent to the situation. Again, he's missed 23 games, which is part of the reason Buffalo signed him, just a 1-year deal. Things got worse for the Bills. Bosa obviously pulls the calf muscle in OTAs. In 14 games last season, Bosa only racked up 22 tackles, 13 quarterback hits, and had 5 sacks. Hell, 5 sacks on the Buffalo Bills would have put him at number 2, I think. He'd have been right up to the top. Obviously, Rousseau was the leader, but 5 puts you right there. He got 5 and hardly played. That's why you take chances on guys like this. But if you look at this roster, you got AJ Epinesa, who can come in and play. He was expected to compete with Bosa for the starting job, but I'm sure both those guys will be in a rotation. You throw in Greg Rousseau, obviously, who gets the contract extension, 3rd-round pick Landon Jackson, gives you depth off the edge. And then you've got, of course, the 6-game suspended, or should I say, the 6-game suspended Michael Hoyt, who once he gets done with that suspension will be another player to help with depth at the defensive end position. So Connor joins us here on the show. He says Bosa did play better towards the end of last season. That is true, especially that playoff game against the Texans where the Chargers offense was dead in the water. The reason I put that up, Connor, is you're leading me to what I will eventually be getting at. Something that I saw today I thought was interesting from John Breach at CBS Sports. There were only 3 players in the NFL last year who turned 30 before the start of the season, which Bosa's in that boat, but still managed to record at least 10 sacks. One of those guys is Kyle Van Noy, who has been a dude that's tormented the Bills for quite some time. He had 12.5 sacks. Leonard Williams had 11. Dante Fowler had 10.5. Of those 3 players, they only missed 3 games combined in 2023. They were healthy going into the 24 season, which won't be the case for Bosa. So you have that if you're in the stats and history and all of those things. Here's the biggest area that I think this hurts the Bills, because I actually think this is going to help Buffalo quite a bit, because I don't look at this season the way that the way a lot of people look at this season, and I'm all about winning as many games as you can, and I think the Bills will win their fair share of games, have a chance to be 13-4, depending on injuries and things like that. Could be better, could be less. I kind of got them sitting at 13-4, 12-5 is kind of that area, and then you go from there. When you look at the Bills and ways to help this football team, and a football team that has cap situations, and we all know the Bills are cap strapped, you start looking at players that maybe won't be around next year or maybe are expendable because you have a lot of depth at that spot. And when I looked at the Bills and how could you get this roster better if there was a guy out there that you wanted to bring in, say you wanted to bring in a depth piece at linebacker because we're so thin at backer, or you wanted to bring in another receiver or a tight end, whatever it may be. To me, AJ Epinesa was the most readily available guy to make a move with as far as bringing in talent from another team to help. And with Bosa having the early injury issues, I think that puts a kind of a stop or a hold upon that scenario. You can't trade AJ Epinesa with Bosa with the calf injury. You have to make sure you have a solid insurance plan, because here's the thing. This team, even though the defense was not where we wanted it to be, They led the league in turnovers and takeaways. Yeah, turnovers and takeaways. Add that together. Takeovers. So they led the league in turnovers, and they won a lot of games with the personnel they have. If you look at the list, and I saw this on Twitter, and I apologize, I could not give the person who put this up there proper credit. But I looked on Twitter the other day, and it said if you look at the teams and the percentage of players that they kept from last year's roster to this year's roster, the Buffalo Bills are third. Well, I think they're at 84.6% as far as returning players to their roster. So obviously, while they added a few pieces, this is still primarily the same roster besides a couple of pieces, Josh Palmer, Moore, Bosa, and then you add the draft picks. But that's where I get a little nerved up with this. I was expecting or was hoping that Landon Jackson would be a person that could surge through over time. Michael Hoyt puts a damper on this situation because he's not available for the first 6 games. If Hoyt was available, Jackson shows great signs, Bosa's healthy, now we can trade A.J. Epinesa for some talent that we need elsewhere. And like I said, I didn't just pull this one out of the air. I truly believe they need to find some linebacker depth because that group has not been very durable over the last so many seasons, and we don't have much behind them. So that's where this thing hurts the most to me, the ability to move Epinesa to make the roster better. But if you look at this, how does this affect the Bills and what should they do? Again, you've got the easiest part of your schedule is the first 6 weeks of this schedule. Week 7 is bye week. After week 4, Michael Hoyt, Ogunjobi can go ahead and get a 2-week ramp up, throw in the bye week, and now all of a sudden you've got an extra week for them to get up to speed. The first 6 weeks of this season are going to be vital for the defensive line position in general. Not just to see what happens with Bosa, is he healthy, but it's a chance to ease Bosa into this because he needs a pitch count when he comes back. I don't need to see Joey Bosa playing 50 to 60 plays a game. In my estimation, I would play Bosa at the most 45. Anywhere from 35 to 45 plays a game. You've got rotational players now. You've got guys that can play, guys that maybe you want to upgrade, but they still got a ton of experience and have played in the NFL and played a lot of snaps in the NFL for a long time that you can rely on until you get guys up to speed. So the panic or the Bosa effect of being hurt in general, to me anyway, could actually help the Buffalo Bills. And the main thing it would do to me is this is going to force Landon Jackson into a bunch of meaningful reps early in his career. And the thing that Bills Mafia is going to have to do is something they're not good at, and that's be patient. This Bosa absence throughout OTAs is going to give Jackson more reps in the OTA practices. When they come back to the St. John Fisher and Rochester, he's going to get more reps there because even if Bosa is available, they're going to probably have him as a poster said earlier. They're going to have him in bubble wrap, and they're going to have him about 20 yards away from any other person out there so that he doesn't run into anybody. They're going to protect him. But this gives Landon Jackson the chance to step up. So if you look at Bosa, if he comes back, even if he is back week 1, which I expect him to be, you don't have to play him as much. Landon Jackson gets more reps and eventually, hopefully, takes over that solid second team spot away from, say, A.J. Epinesa. And then depending how the whole thing works, you got Groot, you got Jackson, you got Bosa, then you got Michael Hoyt, who I think, to me anyway, Hoyt's going to be a glue piece for that defense to allow them to do a lot of things that they have not done in the past. So when you look at the schedule and you sit there and you're saying, okay, when we think about Bosa, where do we really need the leadership, the big playability, and all those things of Joey Bosa? I look at week 9. Week 9 is when you really need to start seeing that ramp up of things for this playoff run. And I don't think we've ever looked at it that way in Buffalo. We've always been so concerned about how many games we're going to win. We beat the Chiefs again in the regular season. We're doing all these things when really we know we're going to be the team in the AFC East. We know we're going to get to the playoffs. We have to figure out a way to ramp up to that, because if you look at Kansas City, and everybody wants to compare us to Kansas City, and that's fine. That's what we should be compared to. That is the gold standard right now in the AFC. But if you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, they haven't been great offensively the last couple of years. But the thing that has kept them in it is they found a way with Steve Spagnuolo to play good defense, whether it's big plays by Chris Jones or Karlaftis or whoever it may be. They found a way to play defense. And that's where the Bills need to be. So I'm looking at week 9 as that serious start to ramp up. You got Kansas City at home, at Miami the next week, Tampa at home, then at Houston on a Thursday night, at Pittsburgh, then Cincinnati at home. There's your vital 6-game stretch of the season. That is where I want to see Joey Bosa with his hair on fire, Michael Hoyt with his hair on fire. Landon Jackson's got it figured out and is playing much better, and he's getting a bunch of reps. And then Groot is being Groot. Because I think that I think as fans, we get caught up in the media lingo, and we get caught up in the coaching lingo, and I don't think this is a Mike Edwards situation like last year, or a Cole Bishop situation like last year, where they got hurt in OTAs and all of a sudden, they were behind. They didn't learn the playbook and all this. Defensive line is defensive line. It's not hard, folks. This defense, you play this gap. This defense, you play that gap. When we play this defense with this tag call to it, you go to this gap. This guy blitzes and so forth. A player that's 29 years old that's played the amount of football that Joey Bosa has played, I would imagine he probably knows the playbook already. If they ask you to play B-gap, you get your ass in B-gap. If they ask you to not be reached on an outside run, you get your inside shoulder to the outside shoulder of the offensive tackle, keep your outside arm free, and you play contain. It's not – it crosses over defensive line play. Call it different things, call it different numbers, give it different tags. Playing gaps are playing gaps. There might be a couple of little nuances and some intricacies of how they do it from one team to another, but this isn't a situation where 29-year-old former NFL Rookie of the Year Joey Bosa is going to be left behind because he's not in OTAs. Quite honestly, to me, anyway, I'm a different cat. Dudes like him, I wouldn't really care if they did much in OTAs at all. I know what I got. I know what I signed. I know the situation we're in. He's a one-year rental player, and you're hoping for lightning in a bottle. And you're hoping that history does not repeat itself. Has it repeated itself a little bit? You can say that, but not necessarily. It's a calf tweak. And I would have to think that they're being more precautionary than they are, oh my goodness, when's he going to be back? And when you look at the defensive front, and we talked about it, quite a bit, when you look at this defensive front, you got 3 rookies that you drafted, one of them also standing over there next to Joey Bosa. He's not doing anything either, in Walker. But you got Landon Jackson, you got TJ Sanders. They're going to be relied on early. And that's why I love this schedule. And that's why I don't, to me, I labeled the show today, the Joey Bosa effect. it affects things in a lot of ways. And the effect of this injury, to me, is going to be good for this football team now, because it's going to give the guys that need the experience and need the exposure those reps. That being Landon Jackson and those types of things and those types of players. So we'll see how this all plays out. Again, I'm not freaked out by it. And honestly, while we're talking about being freaked out, I'm not freaked out by James Cook not being there either. This is part of the game. Now, if it's move-in day and the kids are all hanging out outside the dorm at St. John Fisher and he's not there moving into his room, I'm not panicked, but I'm concerned. Because to me anyway, whether it's James Cook, whether it's Joey Bosa, veteran-type players like those guys, St. John Fisher reps are much more important than One Bills Drive reps in May. That's the way I look at it. And I understand Sean McDermott's concerns. He treats kind of everybody the same way with these things. The verbiage is what the verbiage is. But quite honestly, let's get Mr. Bosa healthy. Let's get him ready to roll at St. John Fisher. And let's be positive in a bad situation that now Landon Jackson is getting more reps in May and June, which is the guy that should be getting more reps in May and June to get him up to speed, because this front seven is going to have to rely on a ton of plays from rookies. That's why I love the way the schedule sets up. That's why I love the way this schedule sets up. The first 6 games the way they are, we get through the Ravens game, whatever happens, happens. It is what it is. Then we got 5 games after that. We got a bye week. The 6-week boys are back, and we can roll. So that's how I look at it, folks. I don't tend to gravitate to doom and gloom in these types of situations. There's only one guy on that football team, if something happens to, I would be in severe depression and doom and gloom, and we all know who that is. That's the guy that's getting married this week or next week. He wears number 17 and walks on water and heals sick people and everything else that he does. I kid. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching the show today. Just a little bit of background on this Bosa situation from me, how I feel about it. Again, I think this really bodes well for the Bills. The only negative, they might have to hang on to A.J. Epinesa longer. Not saying they were going to trade him, but I felt like if Bosa came along the way we all think he can and Jackson makes those strides, maybe Epinesa becomes expendable in a trade to bring in some other help elsewhere. So, that's the one area of negativity. But the big positive is we got young guys being thrust into action in important spots, and they're going to get vital experience to get ready for week 9, because that's when that season to me gets heated, and that's when the things need to start getting cranked up as we try to make a Super Bowl run this season. So again, I'm the Big O, Jerry Ostrowski. Thanks for watching the show. As always, hit the like button, subscribe button, review the show, tell your friends. We're here every Wednesday night, 8 Eastern Time, 7 Central on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. We are powered by Believe. I recorded a pretty cool podcast today with the boys from Believe in Chiefs. That'll be out tomorrow. Joe Valerio, who was in Kansas City when I was there. That's who I was drafted by. He's also a fellow Philly guy. Got to catch up with him. Great dude. Had a good time on that podcast. So if you want to catch a little bit of Bills Chiefs talk, that'll be out tomorrow. As always, the fellas will be here at the end of the week. We got the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network show Sunday night. I'm not sure about On the Beat this week, but as we get into the season, you know that we'll be out here like 4 to 5 days a week, bringing you the best content on social media, on YouTube, and on the podcasting networks. And then also, if you want to catch a little bit of other stuff, I am on what's called Bill Squad with Joe Marino and Jeremy White. Mondays and Thursdays. We're on live at noon, and you can check out a little roundtable discussion type stuff on the Bills as well. So appreciate you folks. Thanks for joining me. Be back here next week on Wednesday, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. And as always, folks, much love. Go Bills.
I'm still the same.